Hi everyone, Angela here. In this video, I'll show you how to make a fabric drink coaster that's also a Christmas ornament. Links for all the tools I use can be found in the description below. To make the pattern, I'll use a circle ruler and an awl to draw a circle that's 4.5 inches in diameter or 11.5 centimeters. Then at the top, draw a line measuring 1 3/4 inches or 4.5 centimeters so that the ends join to the sides of the circle. Then draw a parallel line 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter above it and square off the sides. For the top pattern piece, draw a rectangle that's 1.5 inches or 3.8 centimeters long by 2 1/4 inches or 5.7 centimeters wide. Then cut out both pieces with a knife or scissors. If you're planning to make a lot of these, trace it out onto cardboard to make templates. You'll also find a link for this pattern in the description below. To cut 5-inch squares from the fabric and batting, you can use a 5-inch template like I have here with the non-slip silicone grips on the back, or you can make and cut one out on your own from template plastic. Center the main pattern piece onto the template, lining up the top edges, and then use a Sharpie to trace around it. Doing this will allow you to see exactly what pattern will be on the face of the coaster. Cut squares from 2 pieces of fabric and also one from fusible batting that has the glue dots on the back. I'm cutting the 2 top pieces out of this gold lame fabric, but you can use whatever you like. For the top loop, I'm using this gold elastic. This one measures 1/16 of an inch wide or 1.5 millimeters. Cut a length 2.5 inches long for a coaster or 5.5 inches if you're using them for Christmas tree decorations. With the glue side of the batting facing up, place the wrong side of one of the fabric pieces on top, matching the edges all around, and then iron together without any steam. Then turn it over, making sure the top of your pattern is in the right position. Then with the top edges lined up, center that main template onto the batting. Use a marking pen to trace around, or use a Sharpie if it's easier for you to see. Take one of the small top pieces, fold in half matching the shorter ends, and make a crease in the center. Fold your length of elastic in half with the ends together and place in the center of that fabric. Sew a few stitches back and forth close to the edge to keep in place. Then turn it around so that edge is on the bottom, and take the other piece of fabric and place it on top with right sides together. Next, we'll be sewing around these 3 edges. Using a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter seam allowance, start by backtacking and stitch until you're 1/4 of an inch from the corner. With needle down, lift your foot and pivot, check that the ends of your elastic are close together, continue stitching, pivot at the other corner, and then backtack at the end. Turn the seam allowances towards the center in the same direction and hold on to that corner as you turn it to the right side. Repeat for the other side and then use a knitting needle or a point turner to poke out those corners. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, and also leave a comment below. On the piece with the batting, cut small notches at the top markings. Turn over to the right side and place the edge of the top piece between those 2 notches. Then pin or clip in place. With the wrong side up again, we're going to be stitching from corner to corner, backtacking at the start and finish. With the other fabric piece underneath, match the top edges right sides together, and then if you need to, pin or clip all around. Starting right on the notch, backtack and pivot at the corner, and then continue stitching right along that drawn circle. I find this a little bit easier to sew rather than having to cut out 3 circles and then sewing them all together. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. Pivot again at the other side, backtack, and trim your threads. To lessen the bulk, use pinking shears to trim down the seam allowance. Cut the fabric, leaving about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, making sure not to cut too close to the stitching. If you don't have pinking shears, you can just cut a little bit closer to the stitch line or snip little triangles out of the seam allowance. Next, push the fabric through the opening to turn right side out, and then run your finger all around the seam allowance. At the opening, push both seam allowances in and adjust it so that it's nice and straight across the top. Then give it a quick press on both sides. Thread a needle with a single thread and knot it at the end. Insert your needle in the opposite direction of the opening to hide your knot. Now we've got this nice seam line across the top here to use as a guide to line up our stitches. Use small stitches to sew just above that seam line and then through the fold of the fabric to slip stitch this opening closed. When you get to the end of the opening, make a knot and then stitch through the fabric and pull through to hide it. Make sure to have a look at some of my other videos. Thanks again for watching and have a very Merry Christmas.